Welcome to Card Talk with Greg the Frequent Miler and his sidekick Nick Reyes as they talk a reader through which cards to keep, which cards to cancel, and how to plan their credit card future.
Hi, Parker. Welcome to Card Talk. We're glad to have you here. Can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about why you wanted to be on Card Talk?
Yeah, so I'm Parker Skates. I want to be on Card Talk because I'm planning on getting married in March of 2022. And my girlfriend and I were looking at planning our honeymoon right now. And we know that to book things a year in advance, we want to be able to do that next March. So definitely when I came out the details, we'd like to do a few days in Maldives or Bora Bora before heading to Australia for 5 or 6 days and then coming back to the US. So
Nice.
we're just trying to hammer out the details.
Yeah, that's great. Congratulations, first of all. Exciting
Thank
times. This is a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun doing the same kind of thing, and I was sort of in a similar situation to you in that I kind of realized that I wanted to be able to use these miles and points a year before I needed to book anything. So I spent about a year collecting and then about a year kind of planning and booking stuff, and that's definitely the way to do it. So you're in a good situation in terms of like planning in advance. Congrats on that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll second that. Congratulations. And I want to ask you some questions about what you're looking for in the honeymoon. So, you could have very different experiences. You mentioned Australia. That could be things like exploring cities like Sydney and Melbourne, or it could be things like snorkeling the Great Barrier Reef. Are there particular types of things that you envision?
Or do you have a plan as
for?
to where you want to go in Australia already?
Yeah, so we were looking at doing either Sydney and Melbourne or even just doing a stopover in Perth, either Perth or Auckland for a few days.
Cool.
Okay.
Very
and
good.
Was there a particular reason that you picked Australia or New Zealand?
It's one of the continents we haven't been to yet. So we just want to get it off the list. And right now, no one can travel to Australia.
Right.
So planning for 2022 is probably a good idea.
Right. Much better idea than this year or early next year, I think. Yeah.
It feels now like safe that we probably you'll probably be able to do that then.
Right.
So
2022.
Like,
I hope so.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It'll be very discouraging if not.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
Of course, when I two of the places you mentioned are particularly sort of light up something in my mind. So there's a Park Hyatt in Sydney that gets rave reviews. And I believe there's a brand new Park Hyatt in Auckland. And so those are both potentially great options for you. So we'll talk more about what you would need to do to if you want to do one of those.
Yeah, and a couple of the different things that I had in mind actually work out well with either a stop in Auckland or Perth, so that's cool too. When one of the times I went to Australia, we did a stop in Perth, and then I got a stop in Auckland last year on a 40K trip. So I've done a little bit of that kind of stuff too. So that's great. So one of the things that I'm going to tell you right off the bat is that I think you're in a great spot in terms of the fact that you have a year to plan to collect points and then a year to book stuff in advance. The hard part is that normally you'd probably right now take a look at what availability looks like, next year around the time of year you want to go to get an idea of what flights and what availability is looking like. But this time around, I think that that's going to be less useful because I don't know what 2022 is going to look like. So, when we talk about what to collect, what cards to get, what points to get, my mind is on keeping you as flexible as possible. When it comes to hotels, Greg is totally right that I think that there are certain hotels we can plan for. When it comes to flights, I think that you're going to need a lot of flexibility because I can tell you 6 great ways to get to Australia today that, were available a few months ago and probably will be available again next year. But I don't know if all the flights are going to run again in 2022, what availability is going to look like. So I think keeping some flexibility in terms of which points you have access to is going to be really a big key for flights. But for hotels, Greg mentioned that maybe Hyatts are a good idea. Now, do you have any Hyatt Elite status?
No, I don't have any hotel status.
Great. Doesn't matter. You don't need it with Hyatt. So
That's right.
it's no big deal. So all right. So if you wanted to collect Hyatt points, because that Park Hyatt in Sydney is really highly rated, brand new Park Hyatt in Auckland. I mean, anytime you get a chance to stay at a new Park Hyatt, That's pretty cool. So if he wanted to collect Hyatt points, Greg, what would you recommend for him? I mean, it's under 524. Both you and your girlfriend, both under 524 from the list of cards
Yeah.
that you gave us, right? So, I mean, things are wide open here. What would you think for
Right.
that, Greg?
Right. So, I mean, obviously, there's the Hyatt credit card. That's the sort of obvious starting point, 50K sign up bonus. And the nice thing is, Hyatt lets you move points from one person to another for free. So, if you and your girlfriend both sign up for it, it's very easy to combine those into one account. And that makes it easier, of course, for booking a stay where you don't have to worry about, are they going to make us change rooms or any of that kind of nonsense. But then, of course, we'd look at ultimate rewards. So you have some Chase Ultimate Rewards already. And so we'd look at ways, how can you get more so that you'd have enough that you could transfer one-to-one over to Hyatt when it's time. And there I would be looking to whether or not you're open to signing up for business cards. I saw that it doesn't look like you two have signed up for any business cards yet. Is that true?
No, not yet, but I definitely have a side hustle that I could probably apply for business cards for.
Great.
Okay, awesome. So that's absolutely a great way to go. Given your timing, and the coronavirus timing, you might want to wait a bit before doing that. Although it probably doesn't hurt to apply now and just see what happens, because so you get denied. I mean, it would be a credit inquiry, but that wouldn't actually hurt your credit that much. But if you do decide to do that, there's the Chase Inc. Business Unlimited card and the Chase Inc. Business Cash, with which both have 50,000 point sign up offers, and they're both easier to sign up for than the Inc. Business Preferred. I mean, easier to get approved for. And the Inc. Business Preferred does have a 100K offer, but the way I'd be looking at this is like, dip your toe in the water, see if you could get one of the 50K offers, see how that goes, prove your relationship with Chase, then sign up for the other 50K one, and then wait even longer before testing out the Inc. Business Preferred if you need more points at that point. And then of course, if your girlfriend can sign up for any of those cards as well, so much the better, because that also, Chase points you can combine into one as long as you're in the same household. If you're not yet in the same household, then you're still okay, because if you're transferring to Hyatt, you can then move the points for free from one to the other. So either way, you're good to go. Yeah. Now, Nick, you're on mute, it looks like, so we're not hearing you right now. So you're not hearing him either, are you, Parker?
No, okay,
can
sorry.
hear you.
I wasn't on mute. For some reason,
Back.
it changed my microphone input. I don't know why, but
Oh, okay.
here I am.
All right.
So yes. And what I like about Greg's strategy with the building up Chase points is that it also gives you some flexibility for airlines, because there's going to be some options where you'll be able to transfer to Chase if you decide you don't want to stay in Hyatt hotels, or you don't stay as many nights in Hyatt, and flip it around and do something a little different. Now, I know you mentioned both Bora Bora and the Maldives, and what you said was your plan was to hopefully go to one of those places for at least or about 3 nights, and then you were thinking 5 or 6 nights in Australia, right?
Right.
So my first question for you is, are you sure you want to travel all the way to the Maldives or Bora Bora for 3 nights? I know it's a honeymoon, so maybe you are sure. I'm just asking, are you sure you want to travel that far for 3 nights?
Yeah, we'd be flexible if we want to do a couple more nights and maybe less time in Australia, but we have limited vacation time, so we're
That's
trying
what I
to fit
figured.
everything within 2 weeks.
Right. Okay. That's good. That's what I'm glad to hear then. Because I was a little concerned when you said 3 nights in either Bora Bora or the Maldives and 5 or 6 in Australia. I thought, well, you're going to spend a couple of days traveling one way or the other. And for example, with Bora Bora, there's a good chance that in one direction or the other, you'll have to spend a night in Tahiti. So that's probably going to take 1 night away potentially. But if you're already planning the 2-week time period, then you'll have enough time for that, for a buffer on either end. Okay, so that works then. Because my other thought was that whether you go to the Maldives or Bora Bora, you're looking at a seaplane transfer of some sort or a domestic flight that is not bookable with miles, but is bookable with Chase Ultimate Rewards points, potentially anyway. At least in Bora Bora, if you want to go to Bora Bora, you can book that flight with Chase Ultimate Rewards points. So from Tahiti to Bora Bora is about $400 or $500 round trip per person. And so if you're staying 3 nights, I was going to say it's like $1,000 or so. You're adding like $300 a night for 3 nights. But if you use Ultimate Rewards points, then it's not so bad. Another tip, if you decided that you had more time or wanted to spend more time in French Polynesia specifically, that I missed when I went last time around, is that if you buy your ticket directly from Air Tahiti, they have these island hopper tickets where you can visit 4 or 5 different islands, and it was only like another $50 or $60 from, over the cost of the flight directly from Tahiti to Bora Bora. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, I can't decide for you which one you want to go to out of the two. I asked my wife this morning, because we've been to both Bora Bora and the Maldives. I asked her which she would pick if she was in that dilemma. And she told me Bora Bora, but she said, and she was right, we didn't stay at the best place in the Maldives. So the comparison for us isn't necessarily a fair one. So I would definitely recommend getting some more opinions. But one of the things that she pointed out that I agree with is that Bora Bora is a little bit more on the way to Australia than the Maldives. The Maldives is going to take
That's what I was just going to mention too.
Now, it's a little bit more on the way, but, and this is a big but, getting from Bora Bora to Australia is not as easy as you would think. If you look up the airport in Papeete, the only flight that's going in that direction is Air Tahiti Nui, which flies from Papeete to Auckland. Now, the nice thing is that with American Airlines miles, it only costs 30,000 miles in business class from Papeete all the way to Australia. You can connect in Auckland to Qantas, or you could just fly 30K to Auckland and spend a day in Auckland or two if that's what you want to do, and then book a separate flight from there on to Australia. You can often get relatively cheap flights in that market. Jetstar is a discount airline that's really cheap in that part of the world. So you could definitely do that on miles. And I found looking for next year, which again is like, does that really mean anything for 2022? I don't know, but I found it pretty easy to find availability between Papeete and Auckland on that flight on Air Tahiti Nui. They fly it right now with a 787, so probably be fairly nice. It's not the most luxurious in the sky, but it's probably a decent way to get there. So that would be an easier path. Now, the thing there is that if you're looking at that, then that means American Airlines miles, which means American Airlines credit cards. And if you're going to go the American Airlines credit cards route, then I would probably be considering using American miles to get from the United States to Papeete also, if Bora Bora is the selection, because that will give you Air Tahiti Nui from the West Coast. You know, you'll connect, obviously. You're starting on the East Coast, so you're going to fly American across the country and then fly Air Tahiti Nui to Papeete from there. And availability is pretty decent. They fly out of both Los Angeles and San Francisco, if I remember correctly. Availability on the Trans-Pacifics there is not bad if you're planning in advance. So I think you'll probably be able to lock that down. So you'd probably want some American Airlines miles. And if you're going to do that, I would probably recommend starting with the Citi business card. Don't you think, Greg? If he's going to start with business cards, that's probably a relatively easy one to get. And usually the offer is a good 60, 70,000 miles. It'd be enough for 2 of you to fly from Papeete to Auckland with 1 bonus.
That makes a ton of sense right there. Yeah.
It won't add to your 524 count.
Exactly.
So that'd be something that'd be on my radar.
Super easy win. I think that we should plan, so even if you go that route, plan also to make sure that you have enough transferable points in other currencies so that if there's not award space, you have a backup plan for how to get to and from.
That transitions me to the next part. So you said you want to fly business and first, and for first class, there just really aren't very many options anymore. Qantas is not intending to fly their A380s anytime soon. I don't know if they'll fly again. So probably between Australia first of all, there's no first class going to Papeete. So if you want to go to Bora Bora, there's no first class on that specific route. So it's really going to be between Australia and the U.S. or the Maldives and the U.S. if you choose to go that way, or between Australia and the Maldives that you get a first class option. So for all of those, the best 2 bets probably are going to be Etihad and Emirates. And if you're going to do Etihad, it's going to be with Aeroplan miles probably. What would be fine? 105K to Australia. Does that sound familiar, Craig? On
Yeah, I don't remember off
yeah,
the top of my
something
head,
crazy
but
like that. Yeah. So you may be able to book Etihad first class apartments from Sydney to Abu Dhabi to London or New York, depending on where you can find your availability. And then or with Emirates, you could fly first class. I think I looked it up. It was 165K between the Maldives and Australia, which that's a lot of points. So I don't know if it's worth all that to you, but at the same time, it's like 13 hours between Dubai and Sydney. So that's a pretty nice way to experience Emirates first class. So if you're looking for first class, then I would say you probably want to get your hands on membership rewards points, because that's going to give you access to Aeroplan, and it's also going to give you access to be able to transfer to Emirates. And then here's the nice thing: it gives you a backup plan in terms of having other ways to get between the US and Australia or Bora Bora, because your other option for getting to Bora Bora, for the most part, for most people, is going to be Air France, which flies out of Los Angeles to Papeete. Hopefully that flight will continue operating. And so that would be the other great option typically. And so having membership rewards points will be useful for that, as will your excess chase points. Having membership rewards points will be useful for Aeroplan to be able to fly Etihad. And also having membership rewards points could be useful for having Virgin Atlantic miles. And today I found, when I was looking at stuff, that there was actually a decent amount of availability flying Delta from Sydney to Los Angeles on what's scheduled to be the A350. And so you could use Virgin Atlantic miles, and flying on that specific route to be 75,000 points one way in business class. The A350 suites are nice, and Delta One suites are a nice way to fly. So having membership rewards points will give you a bunch of different options and a bunch of flexibility. So I think that investing some in the membership rewards ecosystem makes a lot of sense. But now, what's the best membership rewards card to get? That's where Greg is going to take over.
No, actually, before we get
Darn
into
it.
that, I just want to, on the topic of first class awards between the U.S. and Australia. So I think we're mostly talking about the return trip. I mean, I totally agree that your best bet is probably going to be the Etihad flight, if you can grab that, because at least in recent times we've seen that available for two people. Emirates is also often available, but much more expensive. But there are other options, right? So that I believe ANA, if you're willing to fly through Japan.
Yes, if
same
you're
thing
willing.
with
Yes,
Japan
you're right.
Airlines. Or there's Lufthansa if you want to fly through Frankfurt. So there are some other options.
Well, but
Lufthansa has
how are you going to fly those, Greg? Like Lufthansa, you're gonna get hit with big fuel surcharges, right? So how would you fly that?
right. I mean, if you wanted to do Lufthansa, you would need either a lot more United miles than you have now, or a lot of Life miles. And I'm not really sure how easy. So one of the problems with Life miles is getting them to price an award in the route you want. So I'm pretty sure if you're searching on the Life Miles website for awards from Australia to the US, they're not going to default to routing you through Europe.
I don't think you can route through Europe.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You think it's not allowed?
Yeah, I'm
Or
pretty
you
sure it's
think
not.
that-
I think this came up at some point in the post. Yeah, I don't think it's allowed. I think they only allow you to go via the
So
Pacific.
it would cost like
2 awards.
almost twice as much, because
Yeah.
it would be 2 awards. Yeah.
That's why I
So
asked.
let's forget about that option.
I don't think that really makes sense. In ANA, if you're the best way to book ANA first class is Virgin Atlantic between Tokyo and the US. But if you're
Right,
starting in
right.
Australia, that's not a great option. So really, the only other option that I think I would recommend if you're willing to connect in Asia is perhaps using either American or Asia miles or Alaska miles to fly on Cathay Pacific. And
Right.
so
That was
then,
the next one I was going to mention. Yep.
yeah. And that is a good option. 85K business class using Cathay Pacific miles. Pretty easy to find availability for 2 people in business class. First class is going to be more. Yeah. Yeah. First class.
Okay.
So,
So the problem is the problem isn't the cost. I think the problem is that they just never seem to release 2 first class awards. Like one first class award, easy. 2, very hard to get. So that would be like,
I don't know what your fiance is like. A lot of people that I know that have ever been able to snag 2 is they book one person in business and one person in first, and just hope and pray and keep checking availability for the second seat in first class to open up before departure. My wife would never put up with booking a flight that way, like not
Yeah.
knowing that we're going to sit together. So I think flying Cathay first, unless you're willing to kind of chance it like that, is probably going to be out, right? I mean, I don't think I've ever seen two.
Yeah. Have you flown any of these first class products, Parker?
No, I have not.
Have you guys flown business or first at all?
I don't think so. I
Nice.
flew like business once about 10 years ago to Europe, but that was it.
Nice. This is going to be fun. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And actually, so that reinforces, if you do go first class at all on this one, it should be on the return, because you don't want to fly first class on the way there, because business class
I totally
is going to be
disagree.
awesome to you.
I totally
Really?
disagree with that. Go ahead.
I think if you start in first class, then business class would be a little bit of a letdown on the way back. Whereas if business class is new to you and you start in business class, you're going to be like, whoa, this is awesome in business
And
class.
something better is coming.
And then later at the end, it's going to be like, whoa, this is
Right.
even more awesome. Whereas, the other way would be disappointing, I think.
That's a fair point. I was thinking you're going to get vacation started, get it started in style, right? I mean, like, what an exciting beginning to vacation. Like, you're going to get out there in first class and be like, oh my goodness, and this is just the trip to get there.
But seriously, can you remember when you first flew international business class? Wasn't that incredibly exciting, the experience?
You know what? The truth is, my first premium cabin international flight was Etihad first class. And that was my first one. And it was on my honeymoon. And I flew business class after that, and it was still great. So there you go. It can happen. Not as good. I think you make a good point. So, all right. So then if we're talking about doing that as the return, then again, I think probably it's best, don't you think, to have membership rewards points? I mean,
yes. Yeah.
Any of those options you're going to go after are going to be membership rewards options.
Right. So we need, let's assume you were right about how many Aeroplan miles you need for Etihad, and sort of set that as a target. Does that sound good?
That sounds
this
good.
is for the return we're talking about, right?
Right. Correct.
So let's say about 110,000 each. So we're trying to get 220,000 for the return. And then we also wanted some transferable points for the outbound in case the American Airlines approach doesn't work, right?
Right. And that's where I thought, and Parker can hop in, you can hop in anytime and interrupt and tell us if we get something wrong. But that's where I thought having some membership rewards points, some excess membership rewards points would potentially be helpful too, because it gives you options, a few different options. Whereas ultimate rewards points, you also pick up Virgin Atlantic and Air France. Membership rewards, you get Virgin Atlantic, you get Air France, you get Aeroplan. So it gives you, I think, a few more options. ANA, if you decide you just want to book it as a round trip.
I have a bit of SkyMiles points, and I was looking at availability on the Air France flight to Peppa Pete, but I couldn't see any business class award space. Is that something that they eventually open up, or is that something that not usually released?
What do you know something good about that, Greg?
No. Well, what I know is how to find it, which is Seat Spy is a tool that makes it super easy to find award space on Air France, British Airways, and Virgin Atlantic right now, and then they're going to be expanding to more airlines soon. But it just isn't. There's no option that's easier that I know of to find the award space. So you could try that out and see if what it shows you. But when I last looked, there wasn't.
And
the
other thing is that Air France releases availability ahead of Delta. So I found those seats before they were available with partners, which is probably how a lot of people do, I think, because if you book directly through Flying Blue, then the price is going to be a little variable. I want to say I paid 71 or 77. I think the cheapest I saw was 68 or something like that, one way, but they were available sooner that way. So, and I kept my eye on it in the weeks afterwards to see the pattern, and it definitely looked like they were pretty good about releasing 2 seats in advance. The price is going to be a little bit variable, but it wasn't crazy if you were booking as soon as the seats become available.
So that's not great if this is just a backup option, though, right? because if it's a backup option, presumably he's working to try to book the
That's
other,
true.
with American Airlines miles, and then
Right.
eventually says, "Oh,
Good
I'm not
point.
sure that's going to work." Now, you could use your Air France miles to book it when as soon as it's open, and keep it as a backup, and they only charge around $50 to cancel and redeposit your miles, but then you're stuck with Air France miles that will expire in 2 years unless you have actual flights that credit to Air France. And so I don't think we want to leave you in that position.
So what do
the
you
other
think?
option would be the other option would be book that with Virgin Atlantic miles or Delta. Oh, well, you mentioned Delta miles. So the problem is with Delta, you might not be able to book that far out, and Delta is going to charge you more if you have to cancel. So not great options there.
Hopefully you don't have to, but yeah. So, well, and to that's considering going to Papeete. The other way around, if you decide to go to the Maldives, then you have got maybe a few more options that way, in the sense that there's a lot of Star Alliance airlines that you can fly to get to Europe and then connect from there. I think Lufthansa flies to the Maldives, if I remember correctly, and Turkish for sure does. You could probably, I would think, fly via Ethiopia, although I'm not actually positive on that, so don't quote me on that one. And then your other options are going to, again, be Etihad and Emirates, I think. So, or you fly via Asia on Cathay Pacific, which $85K again in business class from the US to Hong Kong to there. So that would be another potentially good option, I guess. So I still think, I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but I still think membership rewards are the strong play here, Greg, don't you? I mean, like most of the options.
I mean, it'll give you so many options. Yeah. Should Parker be considering a round the world trip?
I mean,
it's maybe not enough time available.
Yeah. With 2 weeks, it might be a little tight. Because so what Greg is thinking is the ANA round the world chart. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but ANA's got a terrific round the world chart where it depends on how far you're flying, but for, let's say, 115,000 points, you can fly 20,000 miles around the world in business class per passenger. The issue with that is going to be that ANA has got a lot of rules as to who you can book for. So if you're not married yet, I think technically you wouldn't be able to book with your points for your girlfriend. She would need her own points, though. I say technically because I don't know that they're going to check any paperwork on that. But that's one restriction to keep in mind. And the other is that you're going to be flying Star Alliance, and so you're going to be hit with fuel surcharges on some airlines. So you have to learn which ones don't have fuel surcharges. So in that case, you'd be probably picking based on the airlines that don't have fuel surcharges rather than booking based on the airlines that are glitzy and that you want to fly. So I guess that brings me to another question. What's more important to you? Getting there like quickly, with the fewest number of days or stops possible, or flying the glitziest airline and staying at the fanciest hotels? Like what's your goal here?
So I think we'd like to stay at like the most luxurious hotel in Bora Bora or the Maldives, but in Australia it wouldn't matter as much to us.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd be okay with flying economy from like the Maldives to Australia or from Bora Bora to Australia, but we'd like to keep doing business class from the US to Australia or those destinations. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense, and that I think that makes it even easier then. So if you want to stay at a luxurious place in either the Maldives or Bora Bora, so I really liked the Conrad Bora Bora. It wouldn't normally be if you're only going to stay in one hotel in Bora Bora, it wouldn't normally be my recommendation. I think the St. Regis is really nice in Bora Bora. Of course, there are lots of other places that are beautiful. Everybody says the Four Seasons is terrific, but you're not going to book that with points unless you use the Ultimate Rewards portal. So really your options come down to being basically those two. I'm not sure if the Le Méridien is staying open or not. I thought I read that it was closing in Bora Bora. I could be wrong on that. So getting enough Marriott points to spend a meaningful number of nights at the St. Regis Bora Bora might be tough because of all the credit card restrictions. So the easy play, either way, whether you want to go to the Maldives or Bora Bora, is the Hilton Aspire card. And I feel like that is one that definitely needs to be on your list this year. because this year you'll get a free night certificate that's valid for 2 years. So if you were to open that card tomorrow, you're going to have a free night certificate that you'll get this year that'll be valid through the time you're talking about taking this honeymoon. So you'll have one free night done, taken care of. Then you'll have a second free night certificate that comes next year with that card if you keep the card open. So that'll cover 2 nights, and then the sign-up bonus will more than cover a third night. So that'll cover 3 nights in Bora Bora with one single card. Now, it does have a $450 annual fee. That's kind of a high fee. I know you're pretty young, so I don't know if that's on your radar or not, but I think it's worth considering. If it's something.
The annual fee, that's not a big deal for me.
Okay, good. So then there you go. Then that's definitely one to get, and it's one to get sooner, I think, rather than later, because right now through the end of August, you can use the $250 resort credit at restaurants. So it'll be probably really easy for you to use that this year, even without staying at a Hilton. Then next year, what you're going to do is once you've booked that room in Bora Bora or the Maldives, you can prepay part of your stay. So you contact the hotel. I did this, contacted a hotel in the Maldives about the seaplane. I contacted the Conrad Rangoli Island there and said, hey, listen, I have a reservation for next year. If I'd like to prepay some money towards my folio, can I do that now? And they said, sure. They sent me a credit card authorization form. So the key there would be next year to do that with either hotel and put down a $250 deposit. But you're going to eat at either place. If you go to the Maldives, you can charge the seaplane to your folio, and so that'll help cover the seaplane ride if you go to the Maldives. And so pay that $250, and you'll get that rebated from Amex because you're spending it at a resort. And then again, the following year, when you actually go in March, that'll still be before you've paid the annual fee again yet, and you'll have another $250 resort credit. So with one card, you're going to pay $500 worth of that stay. You'll get $250 worth of restaurants this year. You get all 3 nights that you're going to stay there covered. You'll have diamond status, so you'll be able to get free breakfast. I mean, it's a no-brainer to me that the Aspire card should definitely be on your radar.
Great.
So weirdly, I agree with Nick there. the diamond status alone, like you definitely want to have diamond status when you're there.
Right.
And so being able to get that with a card plus the free nights is huge. I mean, I was originally thinking that you might want to delay getting the card because of the annual fee, wait till it got closer. But Nick has a great point about getting those free nights. And that way, most of especially since you're talking about a short stay, most of the stay is covered with those free nights. And then you still have all the points you earn from the sign-up bonus. So,
and really just one of you getting the card. I mean, one of you getting the card covers all 3 nights.
Enough for that, right?
For that part of it. So, and if you do any spend and earn any more points, or you open another card, then maybe you pick up a 4th night if you want. And with the diamond status, you're going to get free breakfast in either place. The breakfast was decent in Bora Bora, and in the Maldives, at least as far as I know, the last I knew, they also did an afternoon cocktail hour with an hour. You get free drinks for an hour, I think, and some free food or something at the one there with diamond status. So you will get a couple of extra little perks here and there. So totally worth that. So that's, I think, a no-brainer. And then
right. And don't forget, so the card also comes with $250 in airline fee credits each year, which Nick maintains a post, which is what works to get those credits, because a lot of things work that you wouldn't expect to work. Meaning there are ways of basically getting that back as cash back, as sort of a rebate for the annual fee. So you're getting that rebate plus the $250 resort credit is more than covering the annual fee. And then the diamond, the free night and the diamond status are like gravy on top of it, which is incredible.
Right.
So that's like too easy, right? So getting getting that free stay in Bora Bora at a top luxury resort, crazy.
And it's super luxurious and very nice. And I said that it wouldn't necessarily have been my first pick in Bora Bora because of the location. It doesn't face like the mountain view that you would expect, but you can easily take a boat, and you'll want to take a boat and see a little bit of the lagoon there. So you'll definitely get that one way or another. Hotel is super luxurious. And right now, the base room that you book into as a Diamond member, it seems you almost always get upgraded to one above that, which is not an overwater, but it's up on the hill, and it has a great view of the overwater bungalows. I actually preferred it. It's a really big like villa. And what they were what they told me they were working on it. Not only did they tell me this at the Conrad Bora Bora, but my butler at the St. Regis Bora Bora also told me that they were doing this at the Conrad. So apparently it's common knowledge there. They're building pools for the villas on the side. I can't remember what they call it, but it's the villa with the sea view. And they had these pedestals built already, and I didn't know what they were for. So they're going to have a pool at some point, hopefully by 2022, I would imagine, a private pool for each of those villas too. So,
Wow.
so yeah, I think that's going to be really nice by March of 2022. So that's a pretty good option. Hotel is spectacularly nice, I would say. Bora Bora, though, of course, on the flip side, Maldives rather, the Waldorf Astoria Maldives, everybody says is off the hook. Crazy. You can use those free night certificates there. Getting award availability at that particular property can be harder. But if you keep watching and watching, you might find it. And then the Conrad in the Maldives has the underwater restaurant and all that fun stuff. So that one's also quite nice. So gives you lots of flexibility whichever way you want to go. So, all right, Spire card for sure. I nailed that one down and hammered that.
Okay. So back to sort of high level. I think we're saying we want you to get enough Chase Ultimate Rewards points for your stay in Australia, because you're going to stay at a Park Hyatt, or maybe both Park Hyatts if you decide to spend a few nights in Sydney and a few nights in Auckland.
Or like you said, if luxury isn't as important to you in Australia, having the ultimate rewards points will be helpful, because there are fewer chain property options in Australia. Certainly if you want to go to Perth or anywhere in Australia other than like Sydney or Melbourne anyway, you're going to have a hard time finding chain properties in Australia. So having ultimate rewards points will be helpful. Even if you don't stay at the Park Hyatt, if you want to stay somewhere else, you can use your points and book through the Chase portal.
For sure. And then we just talked about the Hilton. So just one Hilton card will get you what you need there. And then for flights, we're talking about getting some American Airlines miles through probably the business AA card, and accumulating a bunch of membership rewards points. And we haven't
delved into that yet.
We haven't divin, whatever the correct.
Haven't swum into that.
There you go.
So
swam or swum?
Ask an English teacher. So anyway, all right. So how are we going to do it, Greg? How's he going to pick up some membership rewards points? I mean,
right. So, well, let's think about this. So there's a lot of membership rewards cards that offer membership rewards points. And first of all, like a basic strategy is when you have two people involved, the basic strategy with membership rewards points is one of you sign up for one card and then refer the other person to another card. Doesn't even have to be the same Amex card. You can refer them to any Amex card. And so then when they get approved, they still get their sign-up bonus for whatever card they signed up for, but you also get a referral bonus. And so it's a great way to kind of step ladder more and more points. So first of all, that's what I recommend, is that you do this in 2-player mode. Is your girlfriend open to signing up for cards like this?
Yeah, she's definitely open to getting a couple more.
Okay. So if it's just a couple, you'll need to strategize which ones, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Also, what about spend on those cards? Is that going to be a problem? Should we be?
No, that won't be a problem. With my side hustle, I can put a few thousand in a few weeks on a card. Yeah.
Oh wow! Great.
Okay, great. Yeah. So if that's your case, if that's your situation, then I think I would probably go after the Amex Platinum. Right? I mean, if you can get targeted, when I say go after the Amex Platinum, I should have finished my sentence. Right now, there's a targeted offer for the Amex Platinum card for 125,000 points after 5K spend. You may get targeted for that. You may not, but it's worth checking, because if you are, and you can do the 5K spend, 125K membership rewards points will cover first class one of you between the US and Australia with one single sign-up bonus. Sometimes also through the card match tool, you'll find a 100K targeted offer. And again, that's going to vary as to whether you get targeted or not, but it's worth checking periodically to see, because different groups of people keep getting targeted, it seems, every few months for the last couple of years. So it's worth periodically checking to see if either of you have been targeted for the Platinum 100K or 125K offers.
I did check last night and I was not targeted.
But your girlfriend should check too.
Yeah.
And the other thing to know, you might already know this about Amex cards, is when you have a application link, whether it's a referral or affiliate link or whatever, try opening that link in a incognito browser in Chrome. See if it's a better offer there. Then also try it in a private window in like Firefox, for example, and maybe whatever other browsers you have available to you, because we've definitely seen that some offers show up, some browsers, but not others, and more often you see these deals in private or incognito mode. So it's always worth looking for that. The business platinum card reliably or frequently has a 100K offer with big spend. Sounds like you might be able to do that pretty easily. So that's worth considering, and has the advantage too of not adding to your 524 count. So I think that would be a really good choice, and potentially a really good choice this year because of all the credits that are still available. Have you been paying attention at all to that? How the platinum cards have extra monthly credits? So if you'd be able to use extra Dell rebates, depending on what your side hustle is, maybe it would help with that. I don't know. You can get a lot of you get a lot of money back this year beyond what you can normally get back in fees and everything. So that might be something to jump on right away.
Yeah, I mean, if you can meet the spend on the business platinum is always like 20K, so that's quite a bit more. And I think that they've ended the extended spending period.
Oh, have they?
I think that was to the end of May. So I think you'd only have 3 months to meet that. So if you can meet that, great. If you can't, then that's why I had suggested maybe the personal platinum. But Greg's right, the business doesn't add to 524, so that's a great consideration. Either way, the reason that a platinum card is on the radar for me for this is because it pretty reliably offers one of the best referral bonuses. So then if your girlfriend wants to get a different card, usually the referral bonus on the platinum card is going to be 15 or 20,000 points per referral. So if you refer her for another card, that's another 15 or 20,000 points for you. So good to have a card like that. The gold card has been offering sometimes 20,000 points per referral too for people. So both of those have been pretty good. Whereas the everyday preferred, on the other hand, I don't know, my wife's everyday preferred was only 7,500 points per referral this past year. So if you can pick up one of those more premium ones, then you'll pick up more points when you're referring her for a card, or then she can refer you for a card, back and forth either way. And that's a good way to really build up a lot more points. Because I mean, let's say you opened sometime in the next year, you open 2 membership rewards cards and she opens 2, and you pick up an extra 15,000 points each time. I mean, that's an extra 60,000 points. So it's definitely a good way to build up points within your household. Though, of course, say within your household, and Amex doesn't let you combine the points between the two of you. So you'll want to put some strategy into who's going to build up the bigger pile of membership rewards points.
Although it doesn't matter that much, because you're ultimately going to be booking the award from a transfer partner. And so the real key is, let's say you're planning on using your airline account, your American Airlines or your ANA or whatever you end up doing. Then you want to make sure that you are an authorized user on one of her cards. And ideally it would be a business card, just so that it doesn't show up in your credit report. But it doesn't matter that much. Anyway, the reason is that once you're an authorized user, she can then transfer her points to your loyalty account. I think it takes 60 days or so after, I can't remember, 60 or 90, but after you become an authorized user. So that's something you want to do earlier on, so that you're not stuck saying, oh, I need those points now. But yeah, that's what you need to do. So let's talk numbers now, Nick. You're better at counting in your head than I am, or adding things in your head than I am.
Pressure's on now.
How many? What should Parker's target be for how many membership rewards points will be enough for this?
I've never heard anybody say that things would be a little bit better if I just had a few less membership rewards points. So I think the more the merrier in terms of, what you want to have, because it'll help you for the next trip too. So, and membership rewards points are really easy to keep alive, because you just need a card with no annual fee, like the Blue Business Plus or the Everyday card, to keep those points alive
And the Blue Business Plus, by the way, it doesn't usually have much of a sign-up bonus, but it usually does have good referral bonuses. And what a great card to use because it has 2x everywhere, no annual fee, 2x anywhere, everywhere up to 50K spend a year. So great card anyway to have in your portfolio.
And if you spend a bunch with your side hustle that's non-bonused, then that might be a good card to have once you're done meeting sign-up bonuses anyway, and putting your spend towards that be a good card to have for you. But so anyway, I digress here. So how many points? Well, I looked it up. It was 110 one way is what we found using Etihad, or using Aeroplan rather, to book Etihad first class from the US to Abu Dhabi to Australia, or the other way around. So you're going to want at least 220 to be able to cover that, because that's probably a goal that I would have. Etihad Apartments is certainly a terrific way to travel. I haven't flown in the apartments. I flew the lowly regular first class, and it was amazing. Greg flew the apartments, and it looked like 3 times past
Which
amazing.
Absurdly amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's definitely something I would definitely want to aim for, at least 220. And I think if you have a few extra, that's not a bad problem to have, because then you've got access to some other stuff. You said you're okay with flying economy, maybe between, like if you were to go to Bora Bora, between Papeete and Auckland or Sydney. Now that makes a difference, because now all of a sudden, okay, well, if you're willing to fly economy, Air New Zealand also flies that route. I didn't mention them before because they never release premium cabin space to partners, it doesn't seem, or any premium cabin awards, but they do pretty frequently offer economy class awards. So you could use Virgin Atlantic miles to fly or to fly Air New Zealand rather, between Papeete and Auckland, and then on to Australia from there. So having a few extra membership rewards points could be useful for something like that. Or if you want to fly somewhere else in Australia, do 2 places in Australia, Perth and Sydney, or something of that nature, then having some extra membership rewards points there could be helpful also, because I believe you can book Virgin Australia with Delta miles, right, Greg? You know your Delta miles better than I do.
Yeah, you definitely can.
Although you've got some
Australia
Delta miles,
still exists, then that'll be
if they
great.
still do. If they still do. So I mean, I would aim.
I think they will.
For getting somewhere between 220 and 300. You don't probably need a 500,000 membership rewards points, but somewhere in that range would be good to have a few extra anyway. And I think getting the city business card for at least one of you, if not both of you, is probably a good idea, because the 65 or 75,000 points would be enough if you decide you do want to fly business class between Papeete and Australia. 30K each will do that. Or it'll give you an option potentially between the US and Australia. And just this morning, I was actually looking, and of course, again, next year's availability doesn't necessarily tell us a lot about the year after, but I found quite a number of dates with business class on American Airlines that were 66,000 miles one way between Sydney and DC in business class on AA. Now, I mean, AA is not going to be as luxurious as flying Etihad first class, that's for sure, but having some American Airlines miles could be useful to, again, diversify you a little bit. So I would say, I think my priorities here would be to figure out how you're going to get your 220 to 300,000 Amex points, which is going to probably come from a platinum card, whether it's business or personal at some point, followed by referring for the other Amex cards that'll work for you. And you can do that. I'd say the platinum cards you want to consider this year, one or the other of them this year, because of the short-term credits. And then you've got some time over the next year to add a gold if you get a good welcome bonus offer on that, or add an everyday preferred or whatever it might be along the way to add some more points to your Amex pile. So I would definitely have a platinum card on the docket for this year. I would have a city business card on the docket for this year. I would have the Hilton Aspire card, even though it's going to take up a 524 slot. I think it's worthwhile. And then a Chase business card of some sort. I would definitely want to get my foot in the door with that if you can. Like Greg said, they've been tough on approvals right now. So you may have trouble getting that right now, but like you said, there may not be a lot of downside to applying now. The Inc. Business Preferred to be great with its big sign-up bonus, but since you're relatively young, you have a relatively thin credit profile in terms of the number of cards that you have so far. I think Greg is right. I would go after either the Inc. Cash or the Inc. Unlimited now, and then apply like another 6 months later for the Inc. Business Preferred, assuming you get that.
Right. And so your target with Ultimate Rewards should be to have at least enough to cover, you were saying, up to 6 nights in Australia. So at 30K per night, we're looking at 180,000. Ultimate Rewards, I think, should be your target there.
So there you go. So we said 180,000 Ultimate Rewards, 220 to 300,000 membership rewards, and then I
That's
think the
some AA
miles
miles.
are worthwhile. Yeah. Yep.
All right.
And the AA miles, by the way, I should mention, are also useful if you do decide you want to go to more than one place in Australia. They're also useful for flying Qantas. So, as are British Airways Avios, of course. But domestic flights within Australia, I didn't look it up before we got on here, but I think it's like 17,000 miles. I want to say in business class within Australia. It's pretty reasonable with American Airlines miles. You have to look it up, but it'll give you an option for domestic flights too.
Any questions about all that?
No, thank you. It's been really helpful.
Great, good.
There was a bunch of things that I didn't even think about flying from Australia through Europe to get to the US or Abu Dhabi. So I'll definitely have to look more into that.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take you a little bit longer if you go that route, but if you're going to fly first class, you want it to take a little bit longer.
Right. You'll definitely enjoy the experience. But yeah, I mean, and if you end up being able to book a nonstop business class flight from Australia back to the US, it'll save you a ton of time, and that'll be great too. And
right.
And you know what? It'll save you a lot of miles, so you'll have extra miles for the next trip, so that'll be fine too.
Yeah, and being a little diversified now and adding some extra points beyond the target points that we're talking about, if you're able to do it, is not going to hurt you, because I'm sure that after you take this incredible honeymoon and you fly these business and first class flights and you stay at these fancy places, I mean, it's a little addictive. You're going to want to go on another trip down the road. So having a few extra points is certainly not going to be a problem, I don't think, anyway. Unless you guys don't like to travel, I think that it'll be a good.
Yeah, I don't think that's an issue.
Right. So there you go. Yeah, exciting.
All right, cool. Well, thank you very much, Parker. It was fun doing this card talk with you. It's funny because it seems like what we're talking about is such a big luxury trip, but it's actually, you're going to find, I believe, that it's not going to be very hard for you to get the cards. We're not talking about that many cards to get you to those targets.
No, especially over the course of, you've got 2 years to prep, and probably a year before you start booking some of the flights, but it gives you plenty of time to prep for this. And I think that you're going to be sitting in good shape and probably end up with more than you need for this. So you're in good shape. And it's going to be the kind of dream trip that most people hope to maybe take once, and you'll have taken it mostly on credit card rewards, and be able to do it again. And when I told my wife that you were talking about doing 3 nights in the Maldives or Bora Bora, she was like, "Oh man, I don't know if I'd go that far for just 3 nights." And I said, "We did 3 nights in the Maldives, we did that." So, and she said, "Well, yeah, I know." She said, "The difference is now that we've taken a lot of trips with points, we realize that we are going to be able to do all of those things again at some point in the future." And I think that that's one of the fun things that, once you do one of these crazy trips like this, you're going to be like, "Oh, wow, we did that. We can easily do that again." And that's a lot of fun to be able to have that feeling and freedom that you feel like you can take off and get to Bora Bora or Australia with just a year of planning.
All right. And you're going to share Oh yeah, you bet. You're going to share all the pictures from your trip, right? So
absolutely,
we can see how it turns out. I'm looking forward to that.
Very good. All right. Well, thank you very much for being here.
Parker.
We enjoy having you here. Appreciate having you here. For everybody listening in, if you enjoyed what you're listening to today and you'd like to read more about what we're writing about at Frequent Miler, you can go to thefrequentmiler.com/subscribe. Again, that's thefrequentmiler.com/subscribe to get on our email list and join our Facebook group and check out future episodes. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button here on YouTube as well. Thank you very much. Talk to you guys next time.
Bye, everyone.